You know, some great human started this national whatever day, right? So National Donut Day, National Coworkers Day, National Siblings Day, National Scratch Ass Day, whatever. You know what I'm saying? They got all these. I don't know who's the authority on this. I don't know who's responsible for this, but they always have some kind of national day. So today, June 14th, is National Bourbon Day, right? That's why I have these bourbons sitting in front of me. So this weekend, it must have been National Rum Weekend because I drank a lot of rum this weekend. So today, I probably won't be putting any more alcohol in my system, so there won't be an actual review. I gotta get more of this in me. Whew, rough weekend. I do have a couple of shorts, a couple of videos on my channel and on my IG. JDunn underscore all day. So that's JDUNN underscore ALLDAE. So you can see that. Yeah, so probably not gonna be putting any more alcohol in my system today. But for those of you who don't know what makes a bourbon, it's basically three things. Okay, one, the bourbon has to be distilled in a charred white oak barrel. Okay, that's the first thing. Next thing is it has to be what they call a mash of different grains. So you got malted barley, you have rye or wheat, and then you have corn. So it has to be 51% corn or more. Okay, most of your bourbons are somewhere around 70 to 79% corn, and then you get the rest of the grains. Now, how they differentiate the types of bourbons, or whatever, how the bourbons taste and stuff like that, the different flavors, is the variation or the combination of all the grains. And so basically, if there is only 51% corn, then there's probably more barley and more rye or wheat. If there is a higher percentage of corn, so if it's up to 79 or 80%, then of course there's less of the other grains that's in it. So basically there's three types of bourbons, right? You got traditional, you got rye, and you got wheat. Okay, so your traditional would be like your Wild Turkeys, your Knob Creeks. Rye would be like Basil Hayden, Woodford Reserve, Buffalo Trace. And wheat would be like Maker's Mark or Old Fitzgerald, okay? So that's how that goes. Now, majority of the bourbons and whiskeys are made in Kentucky. Like, what a surprise for anybody who knows anything about those distilleries. They're mainly in Kentucky, all right? About 95% of the distilleries or whatever that make whiskey and bourbon are in Kentucky, okay? Definitely all U.S. made, but some places, maybe Indianapolis or some place, just different places, but the majority is always going to be Kentucky, all right? So there are about 40, there's like 40 miles that separate all of the distilleries in Louisville. Like, they're all within 40 miles of each other. So they're like right there. I did drive, I was on my way from Maryland one time driving back to Missouri, and I took the route, I forgot what it was, but I took the route and it was through Kentucky, kind of like the countryside or whatever. And definitely you saw all the different signs for all the distilleries. So basically, Louisville has a water population that is very rich in limestone. So that limestone helps filter the iron out of the water, and it saves the minerals like magnesium and calcium. That kind of gives the water more of a sweet type of taste. So that's what they use to distill all of this after fermentation. All right, so that's basically how bourbon is made and what's going down with bourbon. So during the 1780s, Elijah Craig, you might know that name, Elijah Craig, used to use old fish barrels to store his whiskey, all right? But it kind of gave it a very fishy taste, so it wasn't popular. So what he did was he actually charred the inside of the white oak barrels. And that is what is kind of where it comes from, like today, like how they still continue that tradition of using the charred white oak barrels. And then for some reason, I don't know why, but he was sending his barrels of whiskey down to New Orleans, which was a 90-day journey, 90-day trip. So being stored in that charred, oak barrel for 90 days while it's on its way to New Orleans. Basically, when they got it, they were like, man, this is kind of a oaky, smoky type of flavor. And then he stamped all of his barrels with the origin of where they come from, which is Bourbon County in Kentucky. So that's where bourbon, where you got bourbon, right? Now, I'm not sure if that's the original reason why it's called bourbon, but it kind of makes sense, right? So when people down in New Orleans was like, hey, man, we need some more of that whiskey, that bourbon, that bourbon whiskey. Boom, there you go, bourbon, right? So most of your bourbon is going to be somewhere around 80 to 100 proof. You know what? I think I made a mistake. That's the third thing that makes bourbons bourbon. So you got the white oak charred barrels. You got the mash of grains with the 51 or higher percent of corn. And you got the proof, which is usually 80 to 100 proof, meaning it's 40 to 50% alcohol. Okay. So, and typically when you like any mix up of these bourbons, typically the aromas you're going to get from these when you open them is going to be vanilla, caramel, honey, and maybe some butterscotch. Okay, just depending on which one you get. Of course, you're going to get some dark fruit flavors like figs, raisins, dates. That's kind of the flavor you're going to get. Some apple, pears, some citrus rose. And it'll be a little bit sweet. Obviously, you got the vanilla, caramel, butterscotch, honey, stuff like that. So there'll be some sweetness in here. So there are some black-owned whiskey distilleries. And there's probably more black-owned bourbons as well. So one of your black-owned bourbons is St. Cloud. You can look up the owner, Ray Walker. He's actually on LinkedIn. But he was a wine guy in France for some time. I didn't really get to see where he was like originally from, but I know he moved to France. He's got some history with his grandfather and his father fighting in the earlier wars, French wars and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of history there. And then you also have, this obviously, whiskey, like I said, bourbon is a whiskey. So you also have Nearest Green Distillery out of Shelbyville, Tennessee. And they create Uncle Nearest, which is this. You can see that. So this is a black-owned company, all right? Like I said, they're out of Tennessee. Nearest Green Distillery is pretty much ran by a team of women, man. They're doing their thing. Nathan Green, where the name Nearest Green comes from, he was a slave, and he actually taught Jack Daniel how to distill. Obviously he didn't get his credit back then, but it definitely came out later. And yeah, so that's some history there. So Fawn Weaver is the CEO and founder of the Nearest Green Distillery. And basically Victoria Edie Butler, she's a great granddaughter of Nearest Green, right? So you got that lineage there. So it's some history there, man. So it's good stuff. It's real good stuff. So I lied to y'all because I'm not about to sit here with all of this bourbon in front of me and not, what I'm saying, get a little bit of a swig, Yes, definitely. I smell those figs right off the bat. Those figs and those raisins right off the bat. I have my glass of ice here, kind of melted. So, just a little bit, man. Just a little bit. See that color? Kind of a dark amber. Nice. Really nice. You see the way Knob Creek, using my left hand here. Oh, yeah, sorry. My bad. There we go. Just slide that to the side. This is the one that I am tasting. That's smoked maple. But you see how Knob Creek does their tops. And all you do is just basically twist that off, and there's a little tab there. You spin it around and take that off of there. So they, just adds a little character to the bottle or whatever. So, that's nice. That's nice. Whoo! Strong finish. Nice, smooth, smoky finish. Definitely get the maple, the vanilla caramel, and the aroma. But I smell those dark fruits, man. I smell the fig and raisins. And there's definitely some toffee and cinnamon in here. Maybe some pepper. But that's pretty good. Definitely on the rocks. So, if you go online, you see that they have activities for National Bourbon Day. Things that you could do, whether you have company over and y'all do tasting or whatever it may be, or you just drink by yourself. Obviously, a lot of people may just like to come home and drink on any day. Any day can be National Bourbon Day. So, look, this video is already about 11 minutes, so I'm gonna go ahead and end it. But thanks for tuning in. Please hit that subscribe button and that like button. I would suggest trying all of these bourbons. I don't think you're going to go wrong with them. And I know there's a lot of whiskey and bourbon people out there, and there's good reason for that. It's definitely a good drink. So you guys have a good night and enjoy the rest of National Bourbon Day.